Welcome to your cinema. Today we look at the evil warriors of the Masters of the Universe vintage toy line running from 1982 to 1988. Beastman makes his debut in Mattel's illustrated books as a follower of Skeletor. As the toy line expanded, he stayed at Skeletor's side. Beastman is a mandrill-faced humanoid with orange and red fur, who can telepathically summon wild creatures of Eternia to aid Skeletor's schemes. He was frequently portrayed as a buffoon who could not do much correctly. The whip that accompanied the action figure rarely appeared in the 1980s cartoon, but was frequently used in the 2002 incarnation as Beastman's way of controlling the animals he summoned to do his bidding. In the 1987 film, Beastman is featured as one of Skeletor's minions, where Evil Lyn listed him as the Beastman. He does not speak, but his sounds are translated by card. In the 2002 series, Beastman is far more ferocious and more of a threat to the heroes. He is a skilled fighter and often comes to the rescue of Skeletor and his fellow evil warriors, using his griffins as their most frequent means of transportation. The Masters of the Universe Classics revealed that his real name was Raquel Rakaz, who came from the race of beast men who was banished from his home in the Vine Jungle for his evil deeds and allied with Kelder. Beastman was voiced by John Irwin in the 1980 series, Scott McNeil in the 2002 series, Kevin Michael Richardson in Masters of the Universe, Revelation, and Trevor Duvall in the 2021 series. In the 1987 live-action movie, Beastman was performed by Tony Carroll. Beastman will appear in the live-action He-Man movie. In the film, he's a savage and powerful foe and will bring a little something different to the table. He's a shapeshifter with the ability to turn into any type of beast, making him a useful spy for Skeletor, as well as a formidable fighter. Comic book resources list the character as part of He-Man, 15 most powerful Masters of the Universe. Beastman was rated the second most useless character. Blade is a master swordsman and bounty hunter with an eye patch and has a Shenandoah, but no hair. His swordsmanship can rival He-Man's. He appears in the 1987 movie, the mini-comics, and the Marvel Comics. Originally, Triclops was going to appear in the movie instead. Like Triclops, his toy is sometimes mistaken for a heroic warrior due to his human appearance. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, Blade started out as a pirate from the Kylax system who was transported to Eternia by Skeletor. He agreed to help Skeletor at the right price. He was portrayed by Anthony DeLonges in the 1987 live-action film. Blast Attack is a robotic warrior built as a walking time bomb. After a set period of time, he will explode and cause immense damage before reforming, unharmed. He did not appear in the cartoon because it ended before his figure was released. There is some debate over which faction he belongs to, as the Mattel Style Guide and the original toy packaging state that he is an evil warrior of Skeletor, while some comics depict him as a member of the Snake Men serving King Hiss. The Masters of the Universe Classics toy line designates him as a Snake Man when he was summoned to Eternia by Skeletor's light spell and stolen from him by the Snake Men. Clawful is a giant anthropomorphic crab with claws similar to a fiddler crab. Whereas the figure has swarthy skin and its boots are dark blue, he has all red skin and yellow boots in the cartoon. In the 2002 series, Clawful is strong but has a childlike mentality and isn't very clever. Despite his constant blunders, it seems he is the only master of evil whom Evil Lyn is fond of. In one episode, we encounter more members of his race who are more intelligent than Clawful. They can communicate with each other via long distances using the clicking of their pincers, as if it was Morse code. Clawful was voiced by Lou Schemer in the 1980s cartoon and Scott McNeil in the 2002 series. Evil Lyn is a malevolent sorceress whose powers seem to be second only to Skeletor's. Exceptionally cunning, she's merely in Skeletor's ranks to suit her own ends. In the original series, she was not reliant on wands and other objects to generate her magic, although she has used such artifacts as the shaping staff to supplement her spectacular innate powers on a few occasions. She evinced shades of goodness in 1 or 2 episodes, such as The Witch and the Warrior, but her nature is essentially fiendish. There was nothing romantic in her relationship with Skeletor in the original Filmation series, unlike subsequent versions. Although her primary affiliation was with Skeletor, she would also venture out on her own and assist other Dark Lords such as Dark Dream and Gorgon on occasion. She seemed to be the only one of Skeletor's evil warriors with the courage to raise her voice at him and chastise him. 25. The original figure has yellow skin, although she is depicted in both animated series as having a Caucasian flesh tone, though the 2002 incarnation has a greenish tint to it. In The Witch and the Warrior, she removes her helmet for the only time in the series because of extreme heat and has closely cut white hair. In an earlier episode, she appeared to the Widgets as a blonde, but she was specifically using a magic spell to alter her appearance, even though she wore her usual clothing. In the 2002 series, much more of Evil Lynn's background is revealed, including the fact that her father, known as the Faceless One, is a powerful sorcerer who despairs of his daughter's choice to follow Skeletor. Although Evil Lynn is shown to have her own agenda, she still maintains some loyalty to her bloodline. "The things I do for family," she mutters as she rescues the Ram's stone from the abyss. Her first meeting with Kelda shows her as a young woman with collar-length white hair who is physically attracted to the man who would become Skeletor. "I like what I see," she purrs at Kelda. Later in the series, her hair is shown to be close-cropped. This version of Evil Lynn relied heavily on her magical staff to cast her spells. Without it, her powers were significantly diminished. Evil Lynn was voiced by Linda Gary in the 1980 series, Kathleen Barr in the 2002 series, Lena Headey in Masters of the Universe, Revelation, and Grey Delisle in the 2021 series. In the live-action movie, she is portrayed by Meg Foster. Evil Meteorbs. These Meteorbs are renegade members of the Rock People who can transform from meteors to animal forms. They are portrayed as pets rather than equal members of the evil warriors. Rhinorb, an evil rhinoceros with a horrible ramming horn. Orbeer, an evil grizzly bear who bashes enemies with his claws. Gorilla, an evil ape with monstrous muscle power. Dinosaur, an evil brontosaurus who stomps his feet to start earthquakes. Appears in one episode of She-Ra. Crocobite, an evil crocodile with crushing jaws. Faker is an evil robot duplicate of He-Man, created by Skeletor. The toy version is done in blue with red hair and orange torso armor with a backstory that he is a robot duplicate that did not work out. In one annual, he is a deformed clone. However, in his sole appearance in the cartoon, Faker is a magical creation, identical to He-Man apart from glowing eyes and odd intonation. In Masters of the Universe, Revelations, Faker partakes in the attack on Castle Grayskull and is sliced in half by Man-at-Arm's laser. Faker was voiced by John Irwin in the 1980 series. Jitsu. Jitsu appeared only once as a supporting character in the Dragon Invasion episode in 1983. The character's name in the script is Chopper, although he is not named on screen. His role in this episode is to accompany Skeletor in an invasion of Castle Grayskull. He has only one line, and aside from a brief display of his karate chopping abilities, has no character development. 8. The character appeared in the mini-comic stories Hordak, The Ruthless Leader's Revenge, and Mantenna and the Menace of the Evil Horde. The character was not used in the 2002 franchise relaunch, though was included in Series 6 of NECA's Masters of the Universe mini-statue line, and came with a pack-in figurine of Artifice, which had originally been planned for release in 2005. Other variations with Jitsu from his animated and figure counterparts. The figure has a full goatee beard, but in the cartoon, he only has a Fu Manchu mustache, and whereas the figure has very brown skin, he is a bit whiter in the cartoon. His boots are even not black in the cartoon, unlike those of the figure. Also, the samurai sword that came with the figure was not included with the character in the cartoon. Jitsu was voiced by Lou Schemer in the 1980s cartoon. Night Stalker. Night Stalker appears only in original mini-books. Some versions depict it as Jitsu's evil robotic steed, while other versions describe it as the reincarnation of the heroic Strider. The original toy line paired the robot horse with Jitsu, making the duo the evil counterparts of Strider and Fisto. Merman. Merman is a fishman who controls sea life, often depicted as the ruler of Eternia's undersea kingdom. The original action figure had unpainted gloves and boots, unlike the cartoon. The sword he used in the cartoon is different to the fishbone sword that the figure came with. Originally, Merman was slated to appear in the live-action movie, but Mattel would not allow the filmmakers to kill off a character they had created. So, the filmmakers had to create Sword. In the 2002 action figure and Matty Collector action figure, Merman comes with a sword and a trident. In Search for the V-Cho, he uses the trident on He-Man. In the Masters of the Universe classic storyline, Merman ruled the undersea realms of Eternia until his kingdom was destroyed by rival ocean clans, causing him to side with Skeletor. In Masters of the Universe, Revelation, Merman and his fellow Aquatican warriors attacked Teela's group during their quest to restore Eternia's magic. He was shown to have a closed right eye with a scar over it. Merman voiced his disdain that Evil Lyn did not bother to conquer Eternia while leaving the oceans to him. With help from Man-at-Arms, Teela's group defeated Merman and his warriors where he was intimidated to let them pass. Merman is voiced by Alan Oppenheimer in the 1980 series, Scott McNeil in the 2002 series, Kevin Conroy in Masters of the Universe, Revelation, and George Takei in the 2021 series. Comic Book Resources listed the character as part of He-Man, 15 most powerful Masters of the Universe. Ninja. Ninja is a ninja warrior who works for Skeletor. He was never featured in the cartoon because his figure was released after it ended. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, where he was also called Ninja Warrior, Ninja came from another world when he was summoned by Skeletor to help defeat the heroic warriors until there was nobody else to help He-Man. What Skeletor doesn't know is that Ninja secretly works for Horde Prime in order to find Skeletor's weak points and how to exploit them. Ninja was mentioned in Slamorai's bio, where he is an enemy of Slamorai. Sword. Sword is a reptilian who can emit sparks out of his mouth. He is featured in the 1987 movie assisting Blade, Beastman, and Karg into retrieving the Cosmic Key. Sword is vaporized by Skeletor as penalty for the group's failure. He does not speak in the movie, and his name is pronounced by Evil Lyn as Sarid. His action figure has been the source of controversy with claims that it should not be given to a very young child because the sparks that come out of his mouth are a potential fire hazard. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, Sword's bio identifies him as King Grell Chulith, a Clibian lizard man from the planet Draftnose who rode a meteor shower to Eternia after escaping from Prison Star. As one of the 3 reptilian species that were spliced with Snake Man DNA, Sword became an enemy of King Hiss and sided with Skeletor. It was stated that during the second Ultimate Battleground, Sword slew Squeeze and Snakeface. Sword also tried to steal the Cosmic Key from Gwilder to go back in time to prevent the dilution of his species. Sword was performed by Pons Mar in the 1987 live-action film. Scareglow. Scareglow is a skeleton ghost warrior who seems to have a solid but translucent body and whose bones emit a strong glow which can intimidate even the bravest opponents. He wears a long purple cape, and there is a small crack on the forehead of his cranium. He carries a scythe, which is often called the Scythe of Doom. Scareglow was introduced into the toy line in 1987. His action figure is notable for its glow-in-the-dark special feature, the bones glowing when positioned in a dark space. Labeled as the evil ghost of Skeletor, he refers to himself as the ghost of Skeletor in the mini-comic, Scare Glow was packaged with a mini-comic, The Search for Keldor. 82. In this comic, he is summoned to Eternia by Skeletor, using a magic spell to call forth the most evil beings of space and time, although it is never stated which time period or dimension Scare Glow originates from. He is sent out with Ninja on a mission to attack the heroic warriors with the power of his glow. He uses the glow to overpower Prince Adam, evoking in him so much fear that he is even too scared to change into He-Man. However, he is ousted from Adam's path by Clamp Champ, giving Adam the time to change into He-Man and subsequently defeat him. It has become one of the most sought-after and hardest-to-find figures by fans. Scare Glow was one of the last figures released. As fewer figures were selling by this late stage, less were produced, making it rarer as a result. On auction sites such as eBay, loose figures have been sold for as much as $100, and the mint-condition, never-opened package Scare Glow has been sold as high as $1,200. The last version issued with the glow in the dark halberd accessory, versus the more common halberd made of non-glowing green plastic, is the rarest and hardest-to-find version of this figure. Because he is one of the last figures to be released in Mattel's toy line, Scare Glow never appeared in the accompanying Filmation cartoon series, which had been discontinued by this time, and his appearances throughout all media are minimal. He has a major appearance in the story Enter the Ninja in issue number 11 of the UK Adventure magazine, which gives him an origin as a being of pure light energy, created by Skeletor in his own image. Invisible in the light, but not in the dark, he is sent out with Ninja to mount a series of silent, unseen attacks on He-Man and Fisto as they explore Viper Tower. His origin as a magical creation of Skeletor is taken from a promotional card provided by Mattel to the publishers of various story media. A similar story of Scare Glow coming from another dimension summoned by Skeletor is told in an issue of Marvel's Star Comics, Masters of the Universe series. Although he is not featured in the 2002 relaunch of the Masters of the Universe franchise, Scare Glow is used in the comic series from MV Creations. He appears in a special Halloween comic, The Power of Fear, that was given away free at the 2003 Children Affected by AIDS Foundation, CAF, fundraiser, and sold in comic shops to raise additional donations to the CAF. The story features Scare Glow as a character from another dimension who is summoned by Skeletor to use his powers against the Masters. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, Scare Glow is a shifty bounty hunter named Null who tried to obtain the secrets of Castle Grayskull. In death, his spirit was cursed and banished to the dimension of Infinita until a magical spell of light cast by Skeletor freed him. While being provided with a scythe, Null became Scare Glow and allied with Skeletor. In Masters of the Universe, Revelation, Scare Glow ruled a part of Eternia's underworld. Scare Glow was voiced by Tony Todd in Masters of the Universe, Revelation, and Masters of the Universe, Revolution. Screech. Screech is a barbaric bird that spies for Skeletor. In the 1983 cartoon, Screech is robotic. It is replaced by a bird-like levitating device called a Doomseeker in the 2002 series, which is used by Triclops to increase the range of his vision powers and spy on the heroic warriors. Skeletor. Skeletor is the main antagonist of He-Man. In the original illustrated books and in the Filmation series, Skeletor is an evil demon from another dimension. A later Mattel mini-comic implies that he was once Keldor, brother of King Randor, which was in fact intended. The 2002 series and related materials confirm that Skeletor was once a blue-skinned man named Keldor, though the series itself established no familial connection prior to its cancellation. His connection to Randor was heavily implied. The later DVD releases of the series featured bios, confirming ultimately that the show's creators conceived of Keldor as Randor's half-brother. The only main difference between Skeletor in the cartoon and on the figure is there is no green on his face in the cartoon, nor red glow in his eyes, unlike that of the figure. The original Skeletor figures wore boots designed for clawed feet. This feature was omitted in Skeletor and a number of other evil warriors in the Filmation series. Later, he was depicted with ordinary human feet with long, pointed claws on them. Skeletor was voiced by Alan Oppenheimer in the 1980 series, recycling the voice he used for Ming the Merciless in Filmation's previous series Flash Gordon. Campbell Lane in the 1990 series, Brian Dobson voice matching Tim Curry in the 2002 series, Mark Hamill in Masters of the Universe, Revelation and Masters of the Universe, Revolution, and Benjamin Diskin in the 2021 series. In the 1987 live-action movie, Skeletor is portrayed by Frank Langella. Panther. Panther is Skeletor's evil feline companion, a giant purple panther creature called a Dilinx who serves as an evil counterpart to Battle Cat. He would usually be seen by his master's side in his lair or carrying Skeletor in a battle against He-Man and Battle Cat. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, Panther was a cub by the time an exiled Kelder found him, and Panther had remained loyal to Kelder ever since. Spiker. Spiker is a humanoid covered in spikes, and he has a trident for a left arm. He serves as Skeletor's blacksmith. Spiker was not featured prominently in the cartoon because his figure was released when the cartoon was drawing to a close, and in the cartoon, did not use the club that came with the figure. In the cartoon, Spiker had normal arms in some episodes and the trident for his left arm in other episodes. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, Spiker was originally a blacksmith from Nordling named Clefton who was fused with an enchanted suit of armor and a mystical trident when he tried to steal a sacred scroll from Nordling's high priests. After being banished, Clefton was found by Skeletor, who used his blacksmith skills to forge weapons. Spiker was voiced by Lou Schemer in the 1980 series and by Phil Lamar in Masters of the Universe, Revelations. Note: Spiker was voted number 10 in the 10 most unfortunate Masters of the Universe toys by IO9. Stinker. Stinker is an anthropomorphic skunk with magical control over his own stench. His action figure used the same mold as Merman, wore the same mold of armor as Mechanic, and actually smelled of patchouli oil, one of only 3 scented toys Mattel produced, the others being Moss Man and also Perfuma from the Chiare line. Stinker was first introduced in 1985 as an action figure from the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe toy line, and came packaged with a mini-comic entitled The Stench of Evil. The Stinker action figure had a semi-foul scent, giving it the distinction of being one of the few toys whose action feature was an odor. The Stinker action figure was created by Mattel by reusing the mold of another villain in the Masters of the Universe line, Merman. The only differences between the Merman and Stinker action figures were that Stinker was painted black and white, had different chest armor, and was chemically treated with patchouli oil to smell musky. Stinker was presented to Lou Schemer and other staff at Filmation for inclusion in the original Masters of the Universe cartoon series, but his questionable superpower kept him from ever making an appearance on television. According to Filmation staff, when the description of Stinker was read out at a meeting of the story editors, all of them burst out laughing and vowed never to use Stinker in any episode script. In the 2002 version, Stinker was once a Pelasgian named Artifice who romanticized the lives of outlaws. The sorceress tells that, in the time of the Great Unrest, Artifice betrayed his people to Provis in the hopes of being accepted into the evil warlord's gang. Upon the warlord's defeat by the sorceress, Artifice was captured and about to be executed. The sorceress intervened and Artifice's life was spared, although he was exiled and retains a grudge against his people. His first appearance is in the Eternian prison, gleeful over Cobra Khan's escape, although he is not named at that time. Through serendipity, an explosion he caused while meddling in Triclops' lab fulfilled his dream of joining Skeletor's organization. The resulting mutations caused the furry creature to gain height, muscle, and the ability to speak in a humanoid manner. His stench is so awful, even to himself, but especially to Eternia's dragons, that a special armored suit was created for him to keep the smell as under control as possible. Some stink still escapes the suit, causing Skeletor and the other evil warriors to cover their noses and to treat Stinker politely in order to get him out of the room as efficiently as possible. Stinker was voiced by Brian Drummond in the 2002 series and Jason Mewes in Masters of the Universe, Revelation. Stinker was voted number 30 in the 36 worst action figures from iconic toy lines by Cracked. Stinker was voted number 7 in the 12 coolest Masters of the Universe action features by Topless Robot. CBR voted Stinker 6th worst He-Man toy. Trapjaw. Trapjaw is a weapons expert and cyborg with a metal jaw, which can bite through anything. 93, 94. In the mini-comic originally packaged with Trapjaw, The Menace of Trapjaw, he is a villain from another dimension that Skeletor invades in an attempt to enter Castle Grayskull. While Skeletor attempts to weaken the castle's defenses, Trapjaw, who is being pursued by authorities, slams into Skeletor and knocks him back through the dimensional portal to Eternia. Back on Eternia, Trapjaw emerges from the castle connected to its power by a magical cord. Both He-Man and Skeletor attempt to defeat Trapjaw, but eventually realize that they must join their halves of the power sword to be strong enough to sever the magical cord connecting Trapjaw to the castle. The comic ends with Skeletor carrying the unconscious Trapjaw back to Snake Mountain, where he will become one of his minions. Trapjaw's origin is very different in the 2002 franchise. Originally a minion of Kelder's named Cronies, he became dissatisfied with his lord's new regime when Kelda had been disfigured then remade after their failed usurpation of the Council of Elders by his evil horde. Falling out of favor, because of this the Warmonger was then cast out into the wastes of their domain, but would vow revenge on his ex-liege. Doing so by gathering all the brigand factions situated within the Dark Hemisphere to lead a raid upon Snake Mountain. An assault which ended in disaster as Kelder, now going by the moniker of Skeletor, had become more powerful than ever, easily decimating Cronies' army. The fatal bout with his former lord left Cronies hideously disfigured. Nevertheless, Skeletor pressed him into his service as a subject of ridicule. Skeletor had Cronies' body rebuilt into a cybernetic augment by replacing his damaged humanoid right arm and lower jaw with mechanical parts, off-screen. Now going by the name Trapjaw, the evil warrior would patiently serve for another chance at taking out his hated master. Later, the cartoon demonstrates that the more metal he eats, the stronger he becomes. And one episode focuses on a quest to eat the strongest chemical element in Eternia called Eternium, which was forged and guarded by a group of subterranean dwellers called the Colodics. He is defeated by getting tricked into eating a special alloy named Deterninum that weakens him. Both cartoon series depict Trapjaw as bold but coarse. In the 1980s cartoon, his helmet, mantrap mouth, robotic arm and legs are cerise, but his robotic arm and legs were black on the original figure. The figure's helmet and mantrap mouth are recolored purplish-red. Whereas he had loads of arm attachments in the cartoon, again, most were colored cerise in the cartoon, the figure only came with 3 claw, gun, and hook. These were also black. His belt did not have the skull and crossbones, Jolly Roger, in the cartoon. This was only on the figure's belt. The figure had yellow eyes, whereas he had normal eyes in the cartoon. Trapjaw was voiced by Lou Schemer in the 1980 series, Paul Dobson in the 2002 series, Diedrich Bader in Masters of the Universe, Revelation, and Roger Craig Smith in the 2021 series. Trapjaw will appear in the upcoming live-action He-Man movie. Note: Trapjaw was voted number 8 in the 14 least masterful Masters of the Universe by IO9. Triclops. Triclops is an interdimensional bounty hunter and swordsman who can see in any direction. His eyes, which are on a rotating visor around his head, have different abilities in different versions. One common ability is the power to see through solid objects. He is also able to see in the dark and over long distances with his night vision and distavision eyes. Triclops wears the gamma vision ever since he was blinded in an accident. In both the 1983 and 2002 cartoons, his eyes can also shoot energy bolts, although this is not commonly used in other material. A well-known classic villain of the MOTU line, Triclops was one of Skeletor's chief henchmen, stoic and obedient, and was frequently featured in the Filmation cartoon. The 2002 version depicts him as Skeletor's irritable inventor, with some cybernetic features to his appearance. According to the book Mastering the Universe, Triclops was a good guy. Page 120. Roger Sweet may have meant he was originally supposed to be good. Ultimately, the toy line and all media depicted him as an evil warrior. The original Toys product subtitle carried on all packaging and advertisements was "Evil and Sees Everything." Triclops has brown hair in the cartoon. The figure has black hair. The visor helmet has different shapes of eyes: square, circle, and triangle. All white and red in the cartoon, but on the figure, one eye is light blue, one eye is white and red, green on the 200X and Classics figures, and one is a dark red. The edges of his armor aren't as jagged in the cartoon, unlike that of the figure. His boots are reddish-brown instead of black in the cartoon. Only the figure's boots are black, and he did not wield the long sword in the cartoon. The sword only came with the figure. In Masters of the Universe, Revelation, Triclops took part in Skeletor's large-scale attack on Castle Grayskull, leading a group of Skelkins while flying one-man war sleds. Triclops appeared to be enjoying himself, until his vehicle was shot down by Man-at-Arms and the Royal Guard, who arrived to join the battle, flying on their sky sleds. Sometime later, after magic had all but left Eternia and Skeletor and He-Man were thought to be dead, Triclops took advantage of the situation by condemning magic altogether and became a leader in the cult of Motherboard. Ironically, Triclops used one of the few remaining magic items left on the planet to perform the ritual miracles of Motherboard. During this ceremony, Triclops would catch electronic-looking water that sprang from a large altar inside Snake Mountain in a magic goblet and force his followers to drink it. By doing so, they would instantly transform into cyborgs, with various limbs being replaced by mechanical weapons. In the 2021 series, Triclops is a surveillance and retrieval drone built by cronies. Triclops was voiced by Lou Schemer in the 1980 series, Paul Dobson in the 2002 series, Henry Rollins in Masters of the Universe, Revelation, and Kevin Smith in the 2021 series. Twistoid. Twistoid is a robotic minion of Skeletor. Skeletor stole the blueprints for the machine Man-at-Arms, used to create Rotor, and used the machine to create Twistoid. He and Rotor are rivals. Twistoid did not appear in the cartoon because it ceased production before his figure's debut. Twistoid was voted by Mania.com as the 7th most crazy Masters of the Universe figures. In the Masters of the Universe Classic storyline, Twistoid was depicted as a purely robotic energy robot. Too Bad. Too Bad is an evil warrior strategist with two heads that constantly argue among themselves. The UK comics named the two heads Blue Face and Yellow Band. The early figures had a more fully rounded back on the torso, but then the figures were released with more of a flattened back. He was never featured prominently in the 1980s cartoon because it was drawing to a close by the time his figure was released. However, his only prominent appearance in the 1980s cartoon was Capture the Comic Keeper. This is because he was the replacement character in the episode working for Skeletor at Snake Mountain for Beastman and Trapjaw, who were going to feature in the episode, but Robert Lamb asked Arthur Nadell to replace them with Too Bad to make Mattel's newest figure releases more prominent in the cartoon. The shield included with the figure did not appear in the cartoon. In the 2002 version, there were originally two rival bounty hunters named Tuver and Badra who bickered constantly. They were both highly recommended to Skeletor by Whiplash. Tuver and Badra were magically fused into one being by Skeletor after they failed to work together in destroying He-Man. Both sides blamed each other for their predicament. Too Bad becomes one, or two, of Skeletor's evil warriors and appears throughout the remainder of the series among Skeletor's henchmen. At one point, they tried to find a spell of separation from a man that Stinker knew, which was not the type of separation that they were hoping for, as that spell nearly separated Eternia. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, the spell that was used on them by Skeletor was an unrepeatable spell. In the 2021 series, Tuver and Badra were first seen as members of King Rander's palace guards. Too Bad was voiced by Lou Schemer in the 1980 series, Brian Drummond and Mark Gibbon in the 2002 series, and Yuri Lowenthal and Fred Tatasciore in the 2021 series. CBR voted Too Bad 12th worst He-Man toy. Whiplash. Whiplash is an alligator-like creature whose tail is a formidable weapon. He is one of Skeletor's evil warriors. He did not have the toy spear in the cartoon. This only came with the figure. And like Merman and Triclops, the character was initially planned to be a heroic warrior. In the 2002 cartoon, he is the younger brother of King Serratus and betrayed his kind when he sided with Skeletor. This series revealed that he and King Serratus are Caligars. Whiplash was voiced by John Irwin in the 1980 series and Gary Chalk in the 2002 series. Webstor. Webstor is a blue-skinned creature with the abilities of a spider. A two-bit thief who resembles a goblin with a grappling hook in the 1980 series. In the 1980s cartoon, he never used the rifle included with the figure. In the 2002 version, he is an arachna, a spider-like race that are enemies of the Andrenids. He can spin webs, has spider-like legs sprouting from his back, and multiple eyes to make him more spider-like in this show. Webstor initially serves as part of Skeletor's Council of Evil, and is the only one not to abandon him. Webstor is beaten to near death in his own lair by the Snake Men in Web of Evil, so they may steal his ambrosia-enriched eggs. The Masters find his defeated body on the ground as he tells them what happened. Webstor was voiced by John Irwin in the 1980 series, Brian Dobson in the 2002 series, and D. Bradley Baker in the 2021 series. Note: Webstor was voted number 3 in the 12 Coolest Masters of the Universe action features by Topless Robot. Thanks for watching. If you would like more videos like this made, just subscribe to your cinema and comment us what you would like to see. Take care.